Hey, this is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite game recommendations if you happen to love our new game, Rolling Realms. This is an infinitely scaling, remotely playable, mini-game filled roll and write game where over 3 rounds, or just 1 round if you just want to play a quick game, you randomly select 3 realms. So randomly select 3 realms like this. Each one has a mini game that's kind of inspired so far by a different Stonemaier game. And then one player rolls 2 dice. Doesn't matter who the player is, they're going to roll 2 dice, and each player will use one of these dice in one of the realms, the other die in another realm, and if they have enough resources that they've collected, they might be able to create a die to use in that third realm, with the core rule of the game being that you can't activate the same realm twice on the same turn. You do that over 9 turns. 9 turns is a round, and you're trying to gather stars over the course of that round. Stars are essentially points in this game. So I'm going to talk about 10 different aspects of Rolling Realms today that I think are kind of core to the game, and things that if you enjoy these things about Rolling Realms, then you might enjoy these games based on this specific element. Or if you see one of these games on this list that you really enjoy, you might also enjoy Rolling Realms if you haven't already tried it. So some honorable mentions that I thought about but didn't quite make the top 10. Not necessarily because I like these games more or less, but just because of the connection specifically to Rolling Realms, are Between Two Cities. So this is the Stonemaier game. I meant to get a copy out to show you, but I forgot. So Between Two Cities is a Stonemaier game where you are working together with 2 other players to simultaneously build and draft and build 2 different cities. It is our lightest and shortest game, and it flows really well. All players are engaged constantly throughout the game, and for those reasons, there is a connection to Rolling Realms based on the length of the game, the weight of the game, and the flow of the game, and that you're engaged all the time. There's never a moment that you're not really doing anything because there aren't separate turns in either of these games, Rolling Realms or Between Two Cities. But I didn't think it quite made the top 10 list for comparisons to Rolling Realms specifically. But if you're looking for another Stonemaier game that you might like if you enjoyed Rolling Realms, Between Two Cities is probably that game. There's also Welcome to, the Quacks of Quedlinburg, Incan Gold, Fleet, the Dice Game, Hadrian's Wall, Railroad Inc., Karuba, Imperial Settlers, the Dice Game, Nation's Dice, Super Mega Lucky Box, and Super Skill Pinball 4K. I have played most of those games, but I haven't played Imperial Settlers, Super Mega Lucky Box, or Super Skill Pinball 4K. So let's jump right into the top 10. The number 10 game is a game that I've only played once, but I really did enjoy it, and it's called Amun-Re. And in this game, the key comparison that I wanted to make to Rolling Realms specifically is that in Amun-Re, you play about half the game. You kind of build up this civilization, this Egyptian civilization, and then you wipe pretty much everything off the board. You wipe away all that progress and essentially start over. You don't start off over the entire game. There are a few things that you keep, but very, very little. And I realized that this is actually similar to what we do in Rolling Realms. In Rolling Realms, you have these 3 realms, and you play 9 turns with those realms, and then you get rid of those cards. You don't use those cards for the rest of the game. Instead, you draw 3 completely new realms that combo together. You also wipe all the resources that you've earned away from round 1. And often in games, I wouldn't say this is a good thing, but I actually think it works for Amun-Re, and I think it works for Rolling Realms because, especially if you are either learning the game, kind of getting your feet wet with the game, kind of learning how it works, then you get a clean start a third of the way through the game of Rolling Realms, or halfway through Amun-Re. You get a clean start. You've now learned it. You get to have a good grasp of it, and you can go better, hopefully play better for the final half of the game, or 2/3 of the game for Rolling Realms. So I think that's good if you're a new player. And also, maybe things just didn't go your way in the first round of Rolling Realms. Those dice just didn't match up with the way you were working together with these 3 different realms. Maybe you just put a number wrong in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it just didn't work well. And so you get a clean slate. The clean slate, I think, could actually be a good thing for some games, and I think that's the case for Rolling Realms, and that's the case for Amun-Re, my number 10 pick. At number 9, I have a game that I love for many reasons. That game is Roll Player, and one of the reasons that I put it on this list is because Roll Player is pretty mathy. Roll Player is a game where you are building essentially a Dungeons and Dragons style character. You're drafting dice and drafting different abilities that you can buy, or you can buy different abilities. so that dice add up to certain numbers essentially, and different colors are in certain places. So you're positioning these dice in very specific places, and that's very similar to what you're doing in rolling realms. You're not physically placing the dice in rolling realms; instead, you're just writing the number down there. Role player probably could have been a roll and write game for that reason, but I like that it isn't. I like that you're accumulating these dice on your player mat throughout the game in role player. Here's what it looks like when you're accumulating those dice on your player mat. But yeah, it's a mathy game, and there is definitely math in rolling realms. So you're trying to get these numbers to add up to a specific number, or you're looking for numbers that are higher or lower. You're manipulating numbers a little bit, and a lot of that ties back to exactly what you're doing in role player. And so if you like that kind of a number and dice manipulation, some amount of math, getting things to add up to the right number or go above and beyond the right number or be less than a certain number, I think you'll enjoy role player, just as I think you'll enjoy rolling realms for that reason. That's my number 9 pick, role player. And number 8 is a game that I did own, but I gave it away to some friends after we played it, and that is My City. My City is a legacy game, which is very different than Rolling Realms. Rolling Realms is not a legacy game in any way, but similar to the game Karuba, My City is a game where you are revealing a card to all players. All players see a card, and they need to use the tile that is shown on that card and place it somewhere in their city. And so you might think in a game like Rolling Realms or Karuba or My City that all players will end up with the exact same city. But it's just kind of magical that it doesn't even happen anywhere even close to that. Like all players end up doing very, very different things in these games, even though they could just look at the next player and do the exact thing that they're doing. But they don't. We have this creative spirit, I think, as human beings that we don't end up doing that. And My City is very much that game where you're using these cards to fit these polyomino Tetris tiles into your city as you build your city over the course of the round, and then you wipe most of that clean. It's a legacy game, so you don't wipe everything clean, but you wipe pretty much all of it clean as you start the new round. But this idea of giving something common for all players to share and use in their own unique way, that leads to many different creations over the course of the game. There's a couple other games that do this on this list, but that is very much what happens in My City. And if you enjoy that aspect of Rolling Realms, sharing one thing but creating something different than other players, I think you'll also enjoy My City, my number 8 pick. At number 7, I have a game that I really love. This is another roll and write game. Well, this is a flip and write game, and that is Cartographers. In Cartographers, you're flipping a card, and that card shows you typically like 2 different shapes, and you need to decide, oh, and also some terrain, either like 2 terrain in one shape or 1 terrain in 2 shapes, and you need to draw that shape in your city into Cartographers. You are creating your own unique city. You're drawing a city of, not a city, you're drawing a map of a kingdom in Cartographers. And again, similar to My City, you're ending up with very different maps, even though all players are using the same resources provided to you in the game. It's a wonderful flip and write game. Like Rolling Realms, it is a game where you're sharing something, you're creating, you're writing, you're drawing, and I just really enjoy the game. Both this act of creation and the act of you having the same thing that all players have access to and doing something cool with it. That is Cartographers, my number 7 pick. Very similar to My City, really. At number 6, we have a game that inspired a specific component of Rolling Realms, and that is Silver and Gold. Silver and Gold is a game where you are trying to complete these little map cards. You're drawing shapes on these little cards and trying to complete them. I think they represent islands in Silver and Gold, and you're trying to find a treasure abstractly on these islands by completing them, by filling in all the different spaces with the shapes provided to you. And Silver and Gold is the first game that I had seen that had dry erase cards instead of dry erase used in other ways. And when it came time for me to decide to make a printed version of Rolling Realms, instead of using pencil and paper, which can be good, you can leave an artifact behind, like in Cartographers. It's nice to look back at previous maps that you've created in Cartographers. But instead of doing that, I think there's a real asset to the variability of cards. You can shuffle cards, you can mix them up. And especially if you can erase them like you can in Silver and Gold, they add to a ton of replayability and variability in the game. And so I emulated that specific component, those dry erase cards, in Rolling Realms. But I really enjoy that aspect of Silver and Gold. I haven't played it in a while, but I would love to play it again. So that is Silver and Gold at number 6. We're in our top 5 here. This is a game that I bought and I had to leave behind while we were traveling. I bought this while we were traveling. This is Sonora. Sonora is a flick and write game where you are taking turns flicking these discs, these wooden discs, onto a kind of a indented game board, a pretty big indented game board that's about the size of the Sonora box. And depending on where those discs land, you get certain benefits, or you get to activate a different mini game based on the number on that disc and the mini game that the disc ended up on. And the big comparison here in Rolling Realms is that Rolling Realms out of the box includes 11 different mini games. All these different cards you have in the game here, representing different realms. You have all these different realms. They're all inspired by Stonemaier Games, except for the new promo realm for Terra Mystica. But you have all these different mini games that just they're simple to learn. The rules are right on the mini game itself, in case you don't have the rulebook in front of you. But I love this idea of having a bunch of different mini games that mix together, that match together. In Sonora, that's very much the case in Sonora. There's no variability of mini games in Sonora. There's just 4 mini games printed on your player mat. But deciding which ones to activate and when you activate them, and which ones to optimize, which ones to kind of just go a little bit into, is a really fun choice to make in Sonora. I like that they designed such engaging, replayable mini games in Sonora. And so, yeah, that's why Sonora is my number 5 pick for this list. And number 4 is Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns also inspired something about Rolling Realms. Tiny Towns is a game where you are, it's kind of like a match 3 style mobile game where you are given a random resource. All players are given the same random resource. You can play a way where a player selects that resource for all players to game. There's also a random way where you just flip a card and reveal the resource that you're going to give to all players. And all players have to place that resource on their little tiny town. And if that resource combines with the other, I guess that maybe they're not even resources. They might be little settlements or something like that, little houses. But when you have them together in a specific shape that matches one of the shapes shown in the game, you get to kind of mash them together and put a better building down that takes up less space, and put that building down on your little tiny town. So a lot of that is very similar to Rolling Realms, not exactly in terms of gameplay, but in that you're sharing one thing. All players see that thing, they use it in their own way. But the inspiration for Tiny Towns, or from Tiny Towns, was that early on in the pandemic in particular, the designer of the game and AEG, the publisher, they would host these live play-alongs where you could just join them live and play your copy of Tiny Towns at the same time as the designer, with the designer taking care of the resource part of the game. He is showing you what resource or what building you get to place on your mat, and you have to do it because all players are sharing that resource. It's a remotely playable game. And the really cool thing about Tiny Towns is that those videos are still live and they still work. If you get Tiny Towns now, you can go back and play against the designer whenever you want, in any particular game that they recorded on AEG. I think it was AEG's YouTube channel. I think that's really, really cool. And that inspired me with Rolling Realms. I play this game all the time now, essentially by myself, but with other people live, and I post the videos on YouTube, and other people can play along whenever they want. If you don't own Rolling Realms yet, that's fine. You can buy the game a year from now, and you can go back and play against me whenever you want against all those videos. And so it's in some ways, it's the lack of player interaction in the game means it opens up some doors, ways that you can play and feel like you're engaging with someone, or even competing against someone, me, because I'm going to post my score. You can see how I played without on your own schedule, though. You can play whenever you want. So I really like that about Tiny Towns. I really like that that's emerged from Rolling Realms as well. At number 3 on this list is Rajas Dice Charmers. Rajas Dice Charmers is just a wonderful roll and write game where you lead up to these turns that feel really powerful. It's a dice drafting game, so there is some player interaction there. I'm drafting a dice that only I get, and I get the icon on that thing. But when I do, I get to activate a certain part of the game, depending on which die I drafted. And oftentimes, that thing can lead to me being able to activate something else, and then gain a resource so I can activate something else. And so you have these like little short turns in Rajas Dice Charmers, but you also have these monster turns that feel super powerful because of what you've set up in the game, and suddenly you set off this kind of chain reaction of bonuses that feels really, really good. Rolling Realms doesn't quite have it to that extent. If you're looking for those huge chain reactions, Rajas Dice Charmers, I think, does that better than Rolling Realms. But Rolling Realms does have this multiplicative effect where maybe you activate one realm and you get a resource that you really need to do something else in another realm, and then maybe you get a resource to manipulate a die to use in the third realm or something like that. So you have these turns that kind of snowball as you are playing the turn itself. And sometimes you're just getting resources to use in a future round, or future turn, not a future round, future turn. But oftentimes you have these turns that feel pretty big. You have these smaller turns and then these really big turns, and that feels really good. So I think if you enjoy Rolling Realms, you will also really enjoy Rajas the Dice Charmers. That's number 3. At number 2, we have a game that I always mispronounce, but let's just call it by the English name. That's pretty clever. Ganz Clever, I think, is maybe the correct pronunciation. But this, very similar to the Rajas Dice Charmers, is a game of multiplicative effects. It also has different mini games. Rajas Dice Charmers kind of has mini games, but I would say in Ganz Clever you have even more little mini games that you're playing, and they overlap. They interact with each other. So you might do something in one mini game that creates a new number that you could use in one of the other mini games if it's the right time to use that. You're kind of stringing together these different abilities to have big turns. It's another game like Dice Charmers that you are having some little turns and then some big turns where everything just kind of comes together. It's a roll and write game. It does have dice drafting, which is different than Rolling Realms. You're not drafting dice. You're always using the same 2 dice in Rolling Realms. So it is a little bit different in that way, but it has a very similar feel to Rolling Realms. And I think if you enjoy this game or Rolling Realms, you will enjoy the reverse as well. That's pretty clever at number 2. At number 1 is the game with the most similarities to Rolling Realms, and that is On Tour. And On Tour, like in Rolling Realms, you are literally, or one player is literally rolling 2 dice, and all players are going to use those 2 dice to write a number somewhere on their map. There's not a picture on the back of the box here, but you have these maps in On Tour, these dry erase maps, again, a dry erase game similar to Rolling Realms. You're drawing a number on that map in such a way that you can connect together a bunch of numbers in ascending order, in sequential order, at the end of the game for the longest route. You're kind of representing the route of a band going on tour. It's a little bit of a mathy game in that you kind of determining the odds that maybe you can fit a certain number in between these other 2 numbers that you really need to fit there to connect this bigger route. So there's a little bit of math there, like in Rolling Realms. You got the 2 dice, you have the dry erase, it's infinitely scalable. Any number of players can play this game. You can play remotely because only one player is rolling the dice. Any other players, as long as they have a map, they can play along. And you can even print off the maps in On Tour, not Rolling Realms, in On Tour to play along. It has so many similarities to the game that really, if you love Rolling Realms, I definitely think you'll enjoy On Tour and vice versa. So that is my number 1 pick. I did forget one thing. As I was talking here, it occurred to me that this is probably representative of Rolling Realms itself. When I designed the game, I didn't realize that I had actually designed, by accident, a living card game. Living card games like Arkham Horror, the card game, where the distinction here between a collectible card game is that when you open a pack for Arkham Horror, the living card game, you know exactly which cards are in that pack, and you get to decide how to use those packs, how to use those cards. In Rolling Realms, we decided that because of the cards, you can shuffle in more cards. You can have more cards. And so we have promo realms coming out. Like we have a Terra Mystica promo realm. This is a realm from another company. This isn't even our game, Terra Mystica. But we got Four Lands permission, and they helped us make this realm, and we're making it. And you can add that into the game. And we're doing more of those. We're doing those for our other games. We're doing that, our future games. We're doing these packs for games from other publishers. We have a bunch of them in the works now. And so it unintentionally, I kind of stumbled into a living roll and write card game. And so I probably should have put on this list a living card game that I'd recommend if you enjoy Rolling Realms. But I haven't really played that many living card games. I played many more, not many more, but I played a lot of Magic the Gathering, which is very much a collectible card game, not a living card game. But I wanted to throw that out there, that if you like living card games, you like a game where you have these cards in the game, but over time, you're going to be able to add new cards to the game through these little promo packs, and they're not variable. You're not having to collect anything. You know that you're getting the Terra Mystica realm when you open the Terra Mystica promo pack. If you like that aspect of the game, I think you might also enjoy Rolling Realms. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you've played Rolling Realms and you have any other games you think of that you would definitely recommend to someone if they enjoy the game, let me know in the comments below, or vice versa. If you think of any other games any games on this list that you think remind you of another game or Rolling Realms, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thanks.